Welcome to Refined Resilience. I'm your host, Carrie Hill, and on this podcast, we highlight the small moments that shape our journey toward greatness and remind us that resilience isn't linear. Each episode features stories of perseverance and the little victories that often go unnoticed, illustrating that resilience is about finding strength in everyday life. Well, hello, my friends. I am so thrilled today. I'm always thrilled with my guests, but today I'm especially thrilled because I have someone with me who I have just wanted to meet for the past 3 years. And we keep circling each other and saying hello. And finally we connected and I asked Nikki Walker to come and be my guest today. So Nikki is a seasoned PR communications and community engagement professional with over 20 years of experience. Originally from Jersey City, New Jersey, she moved to Lehigh, Utah in 2017 and quickly became a key community leader. She built a successful PR career on the East Coast, rising to VP, running her own firm for a decade and serving as PR director for a national hair care brand. And in 2017, she joined a multi-billion-dollar wellness company as director of global brand awareness, expanding its reach worldwide. Passionate about giving back, Nikki serves on multiple nonprofit boards, including Utah Foster Care, the Children's Center, and the Utah Black Chamber of Commerce. She has received numerous accolades, including Utah Business Magazine's 30 Women to Watch and the Women Tech Change Catalyst Award. In 2023, she ran for Utah State Senate, furthering her commitment to public service. Nikki, oh my goodness, what have you not done? And you wrote a book, which we didn't even mention that. So we're going to talk about that too, because I want people to know about your book. Hi. It's so good to see you.
I'm so glad to be here.
Me too. I'm so glad that you took some time and decided to chill with me today. So thank you.
We're neighbors. We got to keep the Utah County juju going, right?
That's right. Yes. Okay. So for people that don't know how you got to Utah from New Jersey, let's talk about that for a minute.
Because what a jump, right? What a jump.
Yeah.
Well, in 2016, my dad had passed away. He was my very best friend, and it was incredibly difficult for me. So in the bio, you hear that I ran an agency for 10 years. Well, that was the end of my 10 years because I got so depressed that I couldn't get out of bed. I let go of all my clients and just kind of tried to figure out my way in the world. And randomly, I get a phone call from Utah. I actually got a LinkedIn request from Utah asking me if I would consider interviewing for this position in Utah. I thought it was a scam.
You're like, where is Utah?
Where is Utah? I don't understand. And so I didn't respond. And the next day, somebody else hit me again and said, no, this is real. So I looked up the company and figured out what was going on, came to Utah, met the team, and the company was just, it felt like family. And after having just lost my dad just the year before, I needed a place where I knew I could find community. And I was kind of afraid because I didn't know what Utah had to offer, but this company felt like family. So I took the position, and so they recruited me out of Jersey City.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you must have been doing something amazing for Utah to be like, we're going to choose New Jersey. Let's go there.
I know, right? Wild.
So did you grow up? You grew up in New Jersey? Where did you grow up?
Born and raised in Jersey City, New Jersey. The most diverse city in all of the United States of America.
Amazing.
And then I moved to Lehigh. So,
Wow. Big change. Well, you have been really making waves out here in such a beautiful and positive way.
Thank you,
Nikki. And I love seeing you at our conferences. I love seeing you and the sisterhood around you, come and bring your light and your energy to Utah business. So thank you for being you.
Yes, thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your upbringing. What was your family like?
Yeah, so I come from a single mom household. I had two sisters. My oldest sister was disabled. She had a genetic disorder that was terminal. And so my younger sister and I grew up taking care of our older sister as mom was in New York City at work and, bringing home the bacon. And so we were part of the care team that raised my sister. There were nurses in our house, home health aides, that type of thing. And so that was part of my childhood. A big part of my childhood was caretaking, but it was really filled with love. And and the love of education. I grew up in the inner city, in poverty, in all of the, all of the barriers that people see and think they can't get around, right? But I found that education was the way out for me. So I did all I could do to be smart and get A's, and went to college, and then I got pregnant. So,
Wow.
So, but here's what's great about that. So I got pregnant and I left college. Well, my son just graduated from college 2 years ago, and now I'm in college to get my bachelor's degree in communications.
I love that.
So yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes.
Single mom journeys are all different.
Yes.
Right? How we arrive there. And for me, my single mom journey began really while I was still married, and it became a different lifestyle, a different mentality, a different burden, to carry than I had previously carried as a mom. And so I want to thank you and your mom, first of all, for doing the hard work and staying in it. Right. And I'd love to hear a little bit about, for you, Nikki, what resilience was like in that transition for you, because you're on a track, and I think a lot of single moms who are single from the onset they're on a track somewhere, they're doing something. And so when you get that news and you have to pivot, that's a big pivot.
It was a huge pivot. Like I said, I looked at education as my way out. So I was pretty devastated because I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to get this degree. I don't know where my life is going to go now. Like it was just, you think your life is a shambles now.
Right.
But what ended up happening is I embraced the journey. I embraced the journey. This baby was coming, whether I wanted him to be coming right now or not, he was coming. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do to make sure that his life was good, that his foundation was secure. And so very shortly after I gave birth, I started doing PR. I was a singer early in my life. Early.
Are we gonna get a preview?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. But because I was a singer and I had a really great manager, I knew what public relations professionals did, and I said, I want to do this. So my son was, I don't know, less than 2 years old, and I said, I'm going to be a publicist, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how to get into the industry. I didn't know anything. So I found a publicist in New York City who at the time was basically the most famous Black music publicist in the game. And I went to his office and I knocked on his door and I said, I want to be a publicist. Can you teach me? And he was so taken by my resilience, by my boldness, by my chutzpah, he would say, that he said yes. And put in a desk in his office. And for 18 months, he trained me to be a publicist.
Wow.
So that was my professional training in PR. And it really changed my entire trajectory. And so being resilient and figuring out that there are always paths that you can take, even when the one you thought was in front of you is blocked. There's always a path. So when you start to visualize the things that you want to do, you can then start to visualize the steps that you need to take in order to make those things a reality. And that's what I did. And so, that's my story of resilience in having to do the pivot.
I love that so much. The thing that really resonates with me about that, because you and I have really similar stories in that space, which I love that so much. I'm just lit up inside because I feel what that journey was like, because I did that journey too, right? I just found a soft skill, and I love that you embraced that and said, no, I have an affinity for this thing in me. And instead of waiting around for somebody to tell me I can, I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to pursue the thing. And I think that's terrifying for people. I think first of all, we don't give ourselves enough credit to find the thing that we love. Right. And I think when you do have to make a big pivot, you are seeking for a different path. You're looking for
absolutely.
that, right? So for you, Nikki, what was that like for you to get to that space where you were like, no, I think I could be really good at this, and I'm going to lean into it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of us don't lean in because we're fearful.
Yeah.
We're in fear of the unknown. And for me, the devil that I knew was really bad. And so fear wasn't going to stop me from getting around that. So for me, it was very much, you have to be brave, you have to be bold, you have to be courageous. To get over the barriers and to make sure that I had a human that I had to take care of.
Yeah.
And so he became my motivation. And, whether it was going to be publicity or I was going to, be on Wall Street, whatever the deal was, I was going to figure out how to make it the best life for my baby. And so it is him, it is my son, Jacob, that really started my resilience story as an adult. Because we went through lots and lots of things. There were great times when we were living in giant homes because my career had taken off. Then there were times when I couldn't pay the rent in the apartment when he was growing up. And then there were times, right? It was ebb and flow. When you're an entrepreneur, when you're a contractor, when you're a creative, your world kind of fluctuates.
Yeah.
And being young, I was 20 when I had my son. So I'm navigating this, raising myself, raising a kid, starting a career, so many things going on at one time. But I think faith really anchors me. So I was always anchored in faith, and you got to do faith over fear. You can't have both. You can have one or the other. And so faith really propelled me through the journey.
I love that so much. I want to talk about that for a minute because so a few months ago, when you are, I'm going to back up. I always do this. I start like a million thoughts and then I'm like, wait a minute, let me start from the beginning. I think when you are a single mom, or you're in a situation where it is fight or flight and you really do have to figure it out, right? You are the boss of that. You're the navigator. You're the ship holder, right? Yes. You're the everything. You're the everything. And if you don't do it, nobody's coming to save you and nobody's doing it for you, right? And I made this realization a couple months ago where I thought, I have been telling God, I'm also very faith-based, I've been telling God where I'm going to take him.
Oh, good luck with that.
Right? Right? Without realizing it. I thought we were walking together, but oh no, girl, I was walking way ahead of him and telling him where we were going to go. And I had this realization that was like, I had a moment, those moments where you're crying.
Yep.
You're just in that space. You're just crying. You're just trying to figure it out. And I had this image of him just halting and being like, are you ready for me to do this with you? Are you ready for me to walk a little bit ahead of you? Are you going to give it to me now? And just that visual changed so much for me. But I've operated as a single mom.
Yeah.
As the leader, right? It's
trauma.
not, you're carrying that weight on your shoulders and it's so heavy and it's so big. And if you fail, the whole family goes down.
That's right.
Right.
Your babies that you gave birth to are in your hands, literally.
Yeah.
So there is a deep sense of responsibility there that could lead again to fear. But when we do that, when we say, I'm going to take the reins and I'm going to do this, and we're doing it without prayer, we're doing it without seeking God's face. And I don't mean to make this religious, but when we do that, we're in a frenzy.
Yeah.
We're in a frenzy. So for me, it's always seek spirituality first, go to God and figure out what the next step has to be, because I've done it the other way. I've done it on my own and it's never worked out.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm sharing that with you, because I feel that. I feel that is no, the frenzy comes because I'm telling you where to go in the opposite. So I didn't mean to get all deep and spiritual, but that's real. And I think there's a lot of single women who are in that struggle or in that frenzy right now, and I think it's a beautiful reminder that faith really is so significant, and it works when you allow it.
That's right.
To work in your life. So for you, Nikki, you grew up in poverty culture a little bit, right? How was for you to get pregnant growing up in that space, were you surrounded by a lot of women who were single moms, you were raised by a single mom? Was pregnancy common, in that space? And what gave you the drive to be like, no, I am not going to be.
So, no, none of my friends had teenage pregnancies.
Yeah.
My mother has 4 sisters and 5 brothers.
Oh my goodness.
So I had a huge family.
So good support.
But great support.
Yeah.
But no, that wasn't the culture. That wasn't my culture in my small universe that I was in. I was an elite student. So getting pregnant was like, what? People were really shocked and surprised that happens. But, we're all human, right?
Yeah.
We're all human. And I don't consider that to have been a mistake, perhaps a misstep, but it was all part of the journey that I was supposed to be on.
I would
absolutely
not
be who I am without my son.
Yeah.
Or without that experience.
Yeah.
Without that experience of having to save myself and realizing that nobody was coming for me, and understanding that I was going to have to do this journey alone. It builds character. It builds character. And, again, had a really supportive family, really supportive friend group, which was amazing. But yeah, I think that when I look back on it, I had to grow up really fast. But I had been growing up really fast my entire life. So it didn't feel like, it didn't feel too out of sorts.
Got it.
I had been caretaking for most of my life.
Yeah. Well, and I really love that context too, because I think my impression of you, Nikki, from the short time that we've known each other, is that you're very empathetic, that you understand a nurturing relationship and a responsibility to be nurturing in a community of people that are all trying to take care of something, do something together. So I really appreciate that was how you grew up, because I think it's factored into this incredible path that you've taken in PR to really make a difference in people's lives.
100%. 100%. When I was 13 and my sister was 11, I think we were 13 and 11, we started a nonprofit organization.
That's amazing.
Because the kids in our neighborhood needed an outlet to talk and feel their feelings and understand trauma. And we recognized the need for mentors even back then, and recruited these incredible adult women, police officers, city council people, religious leaders, just women in the community that were solid. They were solid. And they helped us. It was the organization was called the Intelligent Women of Color.
I love
the IWOC.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Literally, you're giving me like goosebumps. I just am picturing this in my head happening.
And we ran with it for years and years and years, and did community service and and worked with teenagers and all of the things. So yeah, I mean, empathy is baked into me. Empathy is baked into me. Philanthropy is baked into me. Doing good, because, you can do well and do good at the same time. And I think people miss that. I think people feel like I can either do good or I can do well. And that's not true. That's not true. You can do well and do good at the same time.
Yeah. What a beautiful experience, though. What did you learn from those mentors? At that stage in your life?
Oh my goodness. So much. I count it a blessing and a privilege to have been in spaces with women who were in positions that I didn't know little Black girls could be in. So those women, one was ended up being the chief of detectives, in the police department, and then went on to a political career. And these are people, she's, in my life when I'm a teenager. And if you can see it, you can be it. And I really think that learning what I learned from those women was that I could be whatever I wanted to be. I could be whatever I wanted to be. I
love that. What a beautiful thing to take with you. And then when you had to make that pivot, you were like, no, I'm going to do this.
That's right.
This is what I'm doing now.
That's right. Right? I've had like 12 lives already.
I'm so, well, and just the tenacity to move forward in that space too. You know, I think when we talk about resilience, resilience is a bold word. Yeah,
it is.
You know, it for me, and I'd love to know what your definition is of and I think it's probably a little bit different for each category that you operate in, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, no, I wake up every day and see fear and say, I see you, but I'm going to lean into you, right? I'm going to win every single day.
Yeah. I mean, it's the knock me down 7 times, I get up 8.
Yeah.
It is, resilience is really about being able to bounce back, being able to separate the thing that knocked you down from who you are. Like we get
say that again.
You got to separate the thing that knocked you down from who you are, because your failure or your failure is not who you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to live in that misstep. You don't have to live in that disappointment of whatever that thing was. It is not you. It is something that happens to you, and you can separate yourself from that.
Yes. I love that so much. Such a huge, important distinction.
Yeah. And can I take it one step further?
Yeah.
The thing that happens to you usually is really a thing happening for you. The thing that happened to you was really happening for you, because you are learning something, because there's always a lesson. There's always a blessing. There's always a reason that these things are happening. So let them happen for you, not to you.
I love that. Let them happen. I think the hardest part is when we resist the things that are happening based out of that fear.
Oh, resistance makes it come back and bring friends.
Yeah. Yes.
You know?
Yes. I had never thought of it like that, but absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when we're sitting in that space, you know, it's very daunting, and there's a lot of shame, to your point, of sitting in that space where the mistake is you.
Yes.
Right. And there's labels associated with that, and there's trauma, and there's negativity, and you can't be resilient when you're living in resistance.
That's right. Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Right. So I feel like I really appreciate that distinction, because I think, and Nikki, I appreciate the community around people who tell them that you're not that thing.
Yes.
And I don't think we have enough people in our communities and in our companies and in our homes, you know, and in our immediate families. We're not, as a whole, right? This is obviously just not stereotyping, but just saying as a whole, I think we could use more people saying that you're not the thing.
Yes.
Right? You are you.
Well, I think all of us have so much stuff, right? That it's difficult sometimes to look at somebody else and say, let me help you, because you're so tied up in trying to help yourself. But when we release ourselves from those shackles of fear and pain and shame and guilt, when we release ourselves from that and see ourselves as who we really are, then we have more clear vision to see our friends, our family, our neighbors as who they are, and we can share that with them. So it's, you know, we need more people to lift up the folks in the community. We need all people first to work on themselves.
Beautiful.
Work on freeing yourself first.
Agreed. Yeah, I appreciate that so much. I'm just loving this so much. Like, I feel so, we were supposed to meet. We were supposed to know each other like way before today, but I'm glad it's happening today together. Because of your resilience, and because you grew up with people around you that taught you empathy, that showed you a pathway of growth and achievement, right? And because you paid attention and you allowed the influence to come into your life, you've been able to really take that into, you know, society at large, Nikki, right? And starting with that first job, right? Whatever that was for you. And moving forward, you know, like you said, your trajectory was pretty large. I mean, you've worked for billion-dollar companies plus more after that, right? So, walk me through the learning process, if you will, of being a new publicist, right? Mentored and tutored and taught, and then moving into this space on your own.
Oh yeah.
And how that path for you went and what you learned about yourself in that space.
Oh man. Well, when I decided that I was going to leave that first PR job that I knocked on the door for, it was because it was entertainment public relations is what it was. And so my days started at 7:00 at night and I was in the clubs and I was with artists and doing all these things. And I'm like, I can't, it was not sustainable for me. So I took my skills and ended up at a beauty public relations agency where I went in as just an associate and rose in the ranks up to VP, launched an LA office, an Atlanta office, a luxury fashion division, a Black beauty division, because at the time I was one of the only Black beauty publicists in New York City. And so when Vogue or Elle or whomever was doing a story on textured hair, they would call me, or they needed a recommendation on darker makeup, they would call me. And I said to my boss, there's a market here for Black beauty products. And he said, we'll start we'll go make the department, make the division. And so I went after what we call heritage brands.
High five to that boss.
I know, right?
That was amazing.
He was amazing.
Yeah, I love that.
He was amazing. And so I went after Black heritage brands, these brands that we all grew up with in our homes, and got them this incredible new media that they didn't know that they could get. And so in that moment, when he said, go and do the thing that you want to do, it showed me that I had obviously proven myself somewhere. I had worked really, really hard to be a good publicist, to learn the ropes, because again, I was one of the only Black folks who was doing this work at the time. And it was hard. It was hard to be in rooms that young. It was hard to be in rooms where I was the only Black person or the only woman or the only whatever.
And the only Black woman.
And the only Black woman, right?
Yeah.
Those things were hard. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to overcome what was happening in my head about whether or not I was good enough. But him giving me that opportunity showed me that I was good enough. I had done the work in order to make these other things happen. And so I remember that time in my life really vividly. It was a vibrant time. It was a time for learning. It was New York Fashion Week and, upfronts and all of these fabulous things that if you are a young publicist in New York, you want to be a part of. And I was. And so that taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about my capability when I was helping to grow that brand. And then eventually, after years, I left and decided to start my own agency. And when I did, my focus was on Black women business owners. Yeah. So these women who were cooking up hair products in their basements or finding chemists.
The innovation, right?
The innovation.
That was happening. Yeah.
Matching with chemists to find color matching for foundations, these kinds of things. And it felt like my purpose. It felt like my purpose to amplify the voices of Black women around the country to places that they thought they didn't have a place. These women didn't think that they had the skill, the product, the reach to be in national magazines or on national television. And here we are doing full-on talk shows and being in 4 magazines at one time in 1 month. And joy of my life. It was the joy of my life. And in those moments, right, nurturing and mentoring Black women business owners, I found my niche. I found my niche. Being in this sisterhood of women who were so resilient, who had so little support, but who had such a big dream that they were determined to make it happen, I realized that was me. That had always been me.
Mm-hmm.
And now I surrounded myself with women who had the same types of journey and the same kind of determination. And, that's never left me. That's never left me. I am always reaching out for the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to see the little Black girl understand. I want her to understand that she can be whomever she wants to be. And so the work that I do now is really about showing diverse communities that there is space for them in every place. There is space in every place. And sometimes you just need to be told that. Yeah.
So many thoughts right now going through I'm like making up this journey in my head, just so you know. I have a whole movie happening. Nikki, I really appreciate that, because I think, number one, a couple of things that I'm just learning about you just right here in that story is naivety is a beautiful thing. You don't, if there's no one to tell you that you can't do it, you don't know that you can't. Right. And I think my journey was very much like that. Nobody told me that I couldn't. I just wanted to do it. So I just figured out how.
That's right.
Similar to you. And I want that underdog to succeed too. I want, because it was me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really feel that. And I really love that you've taken that initiative to bring that hope and that mentorship that you created initially at 13 years old, full circle, and here you are in the world now teaching communities, business communities, housing community, whatever community that is, on how to be mentored in a topic that they're potentially unfamiliar with or aren't sure how to navigate. And so I'd love if you would. We've got a lot of things happening right now in our culture. And, we were talking off camera before. It doesn't matter who is politically in office at the moment. Some community is always going to have to figure out how to be resilient from whatever policies come in and out, And so I think that's a really important topic, and you're the perfect person to talk about it. How do we help our communities become resilient as a collective?
Yeah.
How do we simply just say, hey, we've got to move forward. We don't have time to sit in resistance.
Right.
Right. We have to figure out how to be resilient. And so I'd love to hear some thoughts.
So I think part of that is support. Like the big chunk of that is support. Communities have to right now buckle down and find out where the resources are within their own communities, whatever community you're in. Right. Because the economy is going to do what the economy is going to do. And that is a scary thought right now. But if we manage to put our dollars together and continue to circulate the dollars amongst each other in community, then we know that we'll be able to have a stable foundation regardless of what is going on in the economy. Right. When we come together as a group, we're able to combat the macro that is happening with the micro. And so I am encouraging, as a Black woman, my existence has always been resistance. My existence is a challenge for some people. And because of that, I have always walked in this space of knowing that I had to do more. I have to be more. I have to perform better. I have to resonate with people deeper. Everything that I do, I have to do it 10 times better. I have to amplify it, right? And right now, I'm telling everybody to amplify themselves. I want everybody to amplify themselves, because the more I know about who you are and what you have to offer, the more I can refer you to people who need what you have to offer. So right now, we need to look at the matrix, right? Unplug a little bit and start putting puzzles together. Instead of playing video games, we need to put together puzzles. Who can serve this person over here? How do I serve better in my community? It's about service right now. If we get so tied up in all of the noise that is happening around us, we're going to forget why we're here. And humans are here to serve one another. We are here for the service of humanity, right? And so when we start to look at each other and figure out how I can fit into somebody else's life and how I can make you fit into somebody else's life, we just build these building blocks. And then everybody's one giant conglomerate where all of the money is circulating and all of the resources are circulating and all of the people are winning. Everybody's benefiting from each other. So I think right now it's the time is now to be focused on your individual communities, like your orbit, whatever's happening in your orbit, and make sure that you are being a good steward of the time, talent, and resources that people are sharing with you.
I really value that. Be a good steward of other people's time, talents, and resources. I really appreciate that. I think it's interesting, Nikki, when we talk, and I'm just going to say this word, right? DEI, because that's what we're really talking about one part of what we're talking about. But I feel like we cannot learn anything about one another if we're afraid to ask the hard questions about the other person's experiences in life. And I think so many of our social issues could be solved if we literally just asked the individual who's going through the struggle, tell me about your experiences. I don't know what that's like. So instead of making an assumption that I know what that's like, let me ask you so I can learn, right? That education piece. It comes through open dialogue. It comes from lowering the defenses, in my opinion. If we can sit at a table across from each other and just ask each other about who we are,
it would change the game.
It would completely change the narrative. And that resistance that so many demographics feel in society, I think would be dissuaded. I think it would dissolve slowly over time, and that building could actually happen, right? Where we're all appreciating the time, talents, and resources that we bring.
That's right. Because to your point, sitting across the table from somebody and asking the questions is the only way to get to know somebody. You can't, it's not going to happen by osmosis. You have to have the uncomfortable conversations, but even uncomfortable conversations can start with comfort.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
We have a foundation. We're human beings. We live in Utah. We're women.
Right.
We are mothers. There's always something that you can find that you have in common with someone else. And so people ask me all the time, like, how do you have these difficult conversations? And what I share is that we should start foundationally with something that we can agree on. Because we're not going to agree on everything.
Right.
But let's start foundationally with something that we agree on. We both deserve respect. So let's have this conversation with a level of respect that says, even if I don't agree with you, I'm going to listen to your points so I can understand why you feel that way. It's so simple. It's so simple. But if we are too afraid to approach one another, then we can't see each other as humans. And that is like
the dehumanizing of so that is the damage.
And because when you other people, when you are doing the othering, you are participating in dehumanization. Because the further away from you the others are, the less like you they are. And that is the less like you in all forms and fashion. It is dehumanizing. And we have to stop that. We have to interject when our friends, our family are othering people. We have to call them out. We have to say that is wrong. And we have to encourage people to get to know one another on a one-on-one basis.
Thank you for that. And again, I really believe that too. I believe it in my heart. I think there are such beautiful, safe ways that you can initiate those conversations too. And I think it's a disservice to us all in our communities to not just be able to be asked. First of all, be willing to be asked.
Yes.
Right. And don't take offense if somebody's trying to learn about the situation, genuinely trying to learn.
Right.
But also then be able to, it's not even really about disagreeing. It's literally about, I don't know your world. I just simply don't know it. You know, if I went to France, I wouldn't know where to go. I mean, you know what I mean? If I was on the Amazon, are you kidding? I'd have to ask for directions. Right? Like someone tell me where I'm at. It's this navigating humanity, I feel, is the same. Someone tell me where we're at, right? And let's take the temperature on things. And then to keep the micro eye on resilience as a community. That's so beautiful. And I really appreciate that you focus on that here. So, okay. Another thing that I'd love to know in your opinion, Nikki, because you are working with so many companies that are trying to navigate questions that they don't understand either. Right. And they don't necessarily always know how to bring up that discussion, which is why they hire people to do it, right? I don't know, someone hire someone. So, what would you tell from the PR lens? And you've had years of experience in this. And, so from the PR lens, what would you tell business owners, companies, teams, people about navigating changes as a whole? Because, we're living in a pretty rapidly changing environment right now. And I don't see that slowing down. No. Not even for this administration, the next, we're just in that world right now where things are just going to move, right? Yeah. And so how do we, I guess, I don't know if it's keep up or take time out. I don't know which one, how do we discuss these changes as a community that are happening, especially in our businesses?
In business, there's so many layers, right? Yeah. To all that's going on, because people come to work and they're bringing their full selves, right? So their fears and their concerns and all of those things are coming to work with them. So folks might start to notice that there is a change in the tone and the temperature inside of offices. Well, that is a key indicator that we need to bring everybody together because people need to feel comforted. People need to understand that they are safe, that their space is still a safe space, and that they are still going to be able to work and succeed in a way that is going to be beneficial to them and to the company. If your employees are coming to work every day and the women now think that they are going to lose their jobs, the tension in that office is, you must be able to cut it with a knife. Yeah. So I think that companies need to be upfront about what is going on because the change is happening all around us. The economic downturn seems to be imminent. And so I think right now for companies, it's about getting their employees to a space where they absolutely know what the next move is. It's unfair to keep people hanging in balance, not knowing if they're going to have a job tomorrow or not. So right now, as changes are happening, be transparent with your teams, be transparent with your communities so that they know what the trajectory is. That is going to help people to start talking, because when you feel safe and secure, then you're able to express how you're feeling in a way that's manageable, that is not full of emotion, but is actually something that's going to move the needle forward. So I say stay transparent. And also give people hope. Give people hope. Talk about what is happening in the next quarter. Talk about the philanthropic things that you have going on or the volunteer hours that are now available for people to work with others who are less fortunate or going through more of a circumstance. I think now is the time to insert that idea of helping others to help yourself. Because we help ourselves when we are giving, when we are serving. It is doing something for us. And right now, in a space where depression is rampant, 1 in 5 Americans is experiencing a mental health issue. In spaces where people don't know if they're going to have a job tomorrow or how they're going to put food on the table, it's important to share that you still can do something to help someone.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
After my dad passed away and I lost all my clients, I was homeless. My son was in college, but he was living on campus. So he was taken care of. I knew that he had a roof over his head and food to eat, right?
Wow.
I'm living on my best friend's couch.
Wow.
But in that moment, what I realized was that there were people who were still worse off than me. So I started working with a program that was feeding the community, basically, and started this community feeding program where I'm living on somebody's couch, but every Sunday morning at 5 a.m., I am in a parking lot, in a city parking lot, distributing food to churches and to food banks.
Because at least you have a friend with a couch.
Because at least I got a friend with a couch.
That's right.
At least I have a friend with a couch.
That's right.
And on Sunday, I'm going to eat. And so are 600 people in the community. It just... Service is how you get through all of this.
Ooh, Nikki is taking us to church right now because I am feeling that all over. Like, hey, amen. That is the truth.
That's the truth.
That's the truth. I feel that from my core. You know, after I got divorced, Nikki, I really, being on welfare for such a short period of time really opened my eyes to the seriousness with which people can get ingrained in that cycle. And because the lack of a bridge out of it is I mean, that's the challenge, is that there's no bridge, right? And so I said to myself, at some point, I'm going to create a program for women who are intelligent, capable, able to do, women like me who have the drive, who are in this cycle by maybe no fault of their own and can't figure out how to make that. I'm going to make the bridge. And so I'm working with UVU to create a 6-week program for women who are divorced and on welfare or barely above welfare, and they've been out of the workforce for X amount of years, and they can go through this certified program. And the goal is to have businesses that will sponsor a single mom through this experience and hire her on the other end, fully trained and certified. The reason I share that is because, like you were feeding 600 people, that
you are feeding.
That was my mission.
600 people.
That was my mission. And that thing, probably for you too, the focus on that thing, and it's never stopped. I know this to be true about you because you're so passionate about the work that you're doing. And I am also very passionate about the nonprofit. I love nonprofit work. It's not for everybody. It's really not.
Yeah.
But I love it because it lifts me, thinking about others, how to help others. Boy, and it keeps me grounded to that space.
Yes.
Not living in it, but grounded to it. This is my mission. This is my cause. This is my resilience.
And once we realize what our purpose is, right? Our why, life gets so much better. Life gets so much better when you're walking in your purpose.
Totally. I don't want to stop. We have to stop. Our time is up. I just want to keep talking. So we're going to have to do Nikki Walker Park 2, in a couple months. But Nikki, I thank you so much for this. There's so many things that we didn't get to touch on. And I do want to come back just for a second to the mental health component, because, you've talked about this in other podcasts. You have a book around taking care of your mental health, and it was a 6-time Amazon best-selling book.
Yes,
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I want you just to tell listeners, viewers, a little bit about that book, and then make sure that we know where to find it.
Sure. So in April of last year, I was part of a collective that released a book called Awareness Put Me On. And the book was about transformation. So it was about the moment in your life when something changed for you and it changed the trajectory of your whole life.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I talked about my experience with mental health and mental wellness. And talked about getting professional help and how it was at work and how it was with friends and how we get to a healthier space. For me, my pivotal change was realizing that I deserved mental health care. Everybody does. But there's such a such a stigma on it that it's really hard. It's really hard to ask for help. So when I got past that barrier, it changed my life. So I wrote about that in the book, Awareness Put Me On. You can find it on Amazon.
Yeah. I love that. And I think I have several, Black women friends in Virginia because I came from Virginia, East Coast. Yeah. And it's funny because all my Black female friends would always say, Black women don't have mental health issues. We do, but we don't,
That's
right?
correct.
We soldier on, we carry on, we grind through it. We don't talk about it. And I think it's such a beautiful thing that you are breaking another barrier within a culture, that typically really doesn't, especially for Black women,
That's right.
address this specific topic. And so I really appreciate that and commend you for that. I think there's many, many women that if they haven't seen this book, if they do and they read it, I think it will make a huge impact for them.
I think so.
So thank you.
So.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Nikki, one last thing. What advice would you give to other single moms trying to find their purpose right now?
Look in your baby's eyes. You are a mom, and moms are magical and amazing and resilient. And if you lose your place, just look in your baby's eyes. They will lead you right back to the path you need to be on for setting a foundation for those babies.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, and I'm grateful that the world has your light right now. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refined Resilience. We hope you found inspiration in the stories shared and the small moments that remind us all of our strength. Remember, resilience is built not just in the big challenges we face, but in the everyday experiences that shape who we are. A special thanks to our sponsor, Build Then Bless, for making Refined Resilience possible. Until next time, remember, it's the small moments of resilience that make us great.